Now, I see a lot of people already comparing this to the 2014 US-sponsored protests in Ukraine, and that was very openly a US-engineered unrest. We had acting high-level representatives of the US State Department in the streets of Kiev during the protests, or providing material support to the protesters. We had US senators on stage with actual Nazi political parties on stage voicing support in Kiev for these protests. And just imagine if it was the other way around, a Russian or Chinese parliament member or party member on stage in the United States backing violent protests, trying to oust the US government and rewrite the US Constitution. It would be an utter absurdity. And yet this is what the US openly did in Ukraine in 2014, but they also did it before that. This is actually a reoccurring theme. This is history repeating itself several times. I've showed this article before. It's worth repeating. This is from 2004. So 10 years before the 2014 overthrow of the elected government of Ukraine. This is from The Guardian. US campaign behind the turmoil in Kiev. The American campaign is an American creation, a sophisticated and brilliantly conceived exercise in Western branding and mass marketing that in 4 countries in 4 years has been used to try to salvage rigged elections and topple unsavory regimes. So they're making excuses for this, but what they're obviously describing is US meddling in another nation's internal political affairs, and more specifically, meddling in their elections. It goes on and it says, funded and organized by the US government, deploying US consultancies, pollsters, diplomats, and 2 big American parties and US non-government organizations. The campaign was first used in Europe in Belgrade in 2000 to beat Slobodan Milosevic at the ballot box. Richard Miles, the US ambassador in Belgrade, played a key role. And by last year, 2003, because this was written in 2004, as US ambassador in Tbilisi, Georgia, he repeated the trick, coaching Mikhail Saakashvili in how to bring down his opponent. So they're admitting that when the opposition took power in Georgia in 2003, led by Mikhail Saakashvili, that was owed to US interference. They interfered in the internal political affairs of Georgia, and they installed a client regime into power, just as they did in Ukraine in 2014. And then we remember from 2003 onward, the US began pouring weapons into Georgia. They began training the Georgian military. And by 2008, Georgia attacked Russia. They did. They attacked Russia. And you will hear people in the US government and in the Western media claim that Russia invaded Georgia in 2008. But no, according to Reuters and actually, according to the European Union, Georgia started the war with Russia, EU-backed report. This is from 2009, a year after Georgia triggered this conflict with Russia. And it says an independent report blamed Georgia for starting last year's 5-day war with Russia. It's a very short war, very destructive. And, well, they will point out how badly it went for Georgia, this game of playing proxy to the US.